Okay, so what we're going to do in this lesson is that we're going to learn how to create a table of data in Excel and copy that data, that table, from Excel to a Word document so you can present it neatly in your scientific report. Now this table here is taken from the table example document which we've created in a previous topic, and you should have access to that so you could follow along if you so wish. I've added some comments on this particular table here, and that will pop open when you open up the document, and I'll leave you to read that at your leisure. So one other thing to note is that I'm using the Mac version of the spreadsheet application Excel. You'll be using the Microsoft PC version. However, they are very, very similar to each other, and since Mac 2011 came out, they're almost identical to each other, so you should really have no problems in following along, and you can always ask your teacher for more help if that's the case. So we're going to start off basically just copying this particular table and showing you how to format it and make it look neat. So we'll start off at the top. So I'm going to type the independent variable into this cell. Now you just click into a cell, you can see here, by hovering over the cell and pressing the left mouse button, and I'm going to type in this independent variable, which is marble mass. So marble mass, and it's in grams. And the next column over, I've just used the tab button to get over to that, but you can just click inside it if you want, is time. So type in time, and that's in seconds for S. Okay, and I've just pressed the enter or return key, and it goes down to the next cell, the next box where you enter your data. Now underneath here, underneath this column, you can see the columns are denoted by letters at the top here, A, B, C. So in column C here I have, in row 22, I have time, and I'm gone down to row 23, and I'm going to put in the first trial, so trial 1, and I'm going to click in the next cell and put in trial 2. I'm going to use the tab button this time. Trial 3, and then finally we have our average column there, and press enter or return. So at the moment it's not looking much like the table above, although the trials are in the same columns. I'm going to change it ever so slightly now. I'm going to enter my independent variables here. So we had the marble mass of 5 grams. So enter 5 in there. Press enter or return. I'm going to press 10 and 15. Okay. Now you will have to fiddle with it a little bit sometimes if it doesn't come out the way that you want it to, but you can always change it around a little bit later. Now you can see up here in this example table, it seems to be one great big cell, and underneath here we have 4 separate cells, and that's just to make it look a little bit neater. You've got the time here, and you've got the 3 separate times, trial 1, trial 2, trial 3, and the average time in the last column there. Okay. And the way that we can do that is if we click inside this cell here, okay, and we're going to, actually let's just click outside for a second. I'm going to click inside this cell, but I'm going to hold down the left mouse button as I do it. So click and hold, and then I'm going to drag across till I highlight all 4 of those columns, those cells there, and I'm going to let go. And I'm going to go up to the top here, and you can see the button here that says merge, and the little tooltip says join selected cells or separate joined cells into single cells. So that's what's going to happen when I press it, and you see down here now those 4 cells have now become one great big cell. They've merged into one cell, and it's kind of looking a little bit like the top one now. Okay, now up here as well in the example table you can see that this one's one great big cell, so the way that we do that is highlight these 2, so click and drag again, go up to merge and press, and there we are. Now the example table as well has got some borders on there, some lines on there, so we can create them by highlighting the whole table as I've done there, and we're going to go up to this button here. If I hover over it and let the tooltip apply, it says apply borders to the selection. If I hover over the downward pointing arrow and click on that, and I'm going to highlight and click on all borders, and if I click outside, now you can see that I have some lines, a grid, and it's starting to look a little bit like the one up there, up the top. So if I click on this button here, I'll click on this cell here, I want to bold that a little bit, so I click the bold button at the top here, come back down to the time cell and click the bold button again, and that's just making it stand out from the individual results there. Now this is a little bit further down than I'd like. I'd like to have it pushed up a little bit so it's in the middle of that cell. So I come up to here, highlight this particular one, and it says align text middle. If I click on that, you can see down here now that that has moved to the middle of the cell. Okay, and what I'm going to try doing now is typing in these values here. So this was 4. Now I'm not typing in 4.0. I'll tell you why in a second. I'm going to press return, and the next one down is 5, and the next one down is 6, and then I'm going to use the up arrow or the arrows to get to the cell that I want, and then I'll type in 5 and 6 and 7, and then up to this cell here, and then I'm going to do 6 and 7 and 7. Now the number of decimal places is different, but we'll fix that in a second. What we need to do now is to work out the average. Now you could do it on a calculator. It's quite easy to do it on a calculator. The way that you do it is that you would add up all 3 separate trial values, so 4 plus 5 plus 6, that would give you 15, and then you divide by the number of results. So in this case we have 3 trials, so 3 results. If we divide that by 3, so 15 divided by 3, we would get 5, and you can see up here in this average row for this particular marble mass of 5 grams we do have 5. Okay, 5 seconds. So we could type in 5 there, and then we could type in 6 down here, and then we could type in 6.7. But what happens if we add some more trials onto here, or if we change the data? Then we'd have to go and manually change all these results ourselves. Well, there's an easier way of doing it, or a better method of doing it, by writing in a formula, and that's the power of Excel allows us to automatically update those averages then. So whenever you want to type in a formula into Excel, you always start with an equals sign. So we press the equals button on our keyboard. Okay, and nothing seems to happen at the moment, but I'm going to start type in the word average, A-V-E. Now you can see that it's brought up a list of different functions, and I'm going to choose the average function. I'll hover over this here, you can see, move my pointer out of the way, it says average, I'm going to click on that. Now the average of what? Well, the average of these 3 trials here. That's what we're after, isn't it? 3 trials here, so I'm going to click and hold and drag so we just have those 3 trials there. So I want the average, the mean result of those 3 trials. I'm going to press my return or enter key, and it's worked out 5, which is right. And now I could do the same with these 2 cells down here, but again there's an easier way of doing it. I'm going to click up into here, and if I just put my cursor near the cell that's highlighted at the moment, you can see there's a little box down at the bottom, and if at the moment you see I have a white cross next to that box, that's my cursor. But if I hover over it, it turns into a black box. Now I'm going to click and hold that cell, and I'm going to drag down till I highlight all the cells, and I'm going to let it go. And what it's done is automatically filled in all the other cells with the average, but not the average of the 5 grams, the average of these separate values. So this one here, if I highlight it, 6 is the average of the 10 gram trials, and 6.666667 is the average of the 15 gram trial. And you could work that out on a calculator if you wanted to. Okay, so that's a great way, let me just click out of there, that's a great way of being able to instantly work out the averages. And as I said there, if I wanted to change this now, if I change that to a 1 and press return, you can see that the average is updated there. Okay, so it instantly works out your average for you. I'm just going to change that back to a 6, so it changes back to a 6 in the average column. Now, the format is not quite the same as this average column for the example table up here. So how can we change that? Well, we can change the number of decimal places inside our table. We're going to highlight all the values, and again you just click and drag inside the table, highlight all the values there. And I'm going to come up to these two boxes here. Now, the first one there, if I hover over it, says decrease the number of decimal places. Well, most of the boxes down in our table that we've created haven't got any decimal places. There's 0 decimal places there. What we need to do is we need to increase the number of decimal places so that it's the same as the example here. We've got 1 decimal place in the example here. So I'm going to come up to this button here, hover over it, and it says increase the number of decimal places. If I click on that, now if I come back down to this results table here that we just created, you can see that it has exactly the same data now as the example table above. So one last thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to highlight that data again click and drag it, and I'm just going to center each of these results, this data inside its own individual cell. And we can do that by coming up to this button here, highlighting over it, and it says center text. Click on that, and you can see now that we have centered each individual item, each individual piece of data. We could do that with this one here as well, so I'm just going to highlight them ones and center them just to make it look a little bit neater. Same with our constructed table that we've just done. There we go. Okay, so that's it really. Okay, that's how do we construct a table. Pretty straightforward. Play this movie back as many times as you need to in order to get the hang of it. Now, you may have more than 3 trials, so you'll have to create more columns and your average column. But how do we get that into a Word document now? Well, I'm going to highlight the whole table, and I'm going to come up here to the copy button, and it usually looks like 2 pages like this. I'm going to click on the copy button. Now, when we copy something, it looks like there's some marching ants going around the table. That's just to show us that we've done something with that table. We've copied the table. Now I'm going to go over to my Word document. So over to my Word document here, and I have open in my Word document here our example scientific report template that we created in a few lessons ago. I'm going to go down to my results section. I'm going to click in the navigation section here, and I'm in my results section, and I put enter or return after my results. Now remember, we copied that table from Excel, and all we have to do is just paste it into our Word document. So if we come up to the paste icon here and press that button, there we go. Instantly we have our table in our Word document. Now there's loads of things you can do with this. You can actually link that to the original Excel file, so when you update it in Excel we can update it in Word and so on and so forth. But let's just keep it easy to start with. There's our results table, and all we did was take 5 minutes just to very simply create a simple table in Excel, and now we have a very neat informative table in our Word document.